If there is no objection, I will convene the May 19th, 2021 regular board meeting to order at 7 p.m. The Lisle Library District recognizes Governor Pritzker's Executive Order Number 2021-09, which extends Executive Order Number 2020-07, as amended by Executive Order Number 2020-33 and Executive Order Number 2020-44. The January 8th, 2021 Disaster Proclamation and the Government Emergency Administration Act Number 100-06-4, which suspends certain requirements of the Open Meetings Act, allowing library trustees to participate remotely. All motions will require a roll call vote. Chris, please call the roll.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here.
Karen Larson.
Here.
Jenny Norton.
Here.
Liz Sullivan.
Here.
Emily Swistek.
Here.
Agenda item number 2, election of officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer for 12-month terms. May I please have a motion for president?
This is Trustee Swistek. I move to elect Marjorie Bartelli as president of the LLD for a 12-month term.
Is there a second?
This is Sullivan. I'll second.
I believe Karen seconded first. Thank you. Discussion? See none. Roll call?
Emily Swistek.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Motion carried. May I have a motion for vice president? I'm very sorry. I make a motion of thank you. I move to elect Emily Swistek as vice president of the LLD for a 12-month term.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Emily Swistek.
Aye.
May I have a motion for treasurer?
I will make the motion to elect Jenny Norton as treasurer of the Lisle of the LLD for a 12-month term.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Emily Swistek.
Aye.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. May I have a motion for treasurer? I'm sorry, for secretary.
I'll move to have Karen Larson become the Lisle Library District Secretary for a 12-month period.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Norton will second.
Oh, you can let Jenny do it.
Discussion? Roll call.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Emily Swistek.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Agenda item number 3, opportunity for visitors to speak. Public comment is for the general public to address the board. Each person will have up to 5 minutes to provide public comment.
We know from last time this doesn't work, but this works. So, good evening, board. It's great to see 3 of you here today in person. That's great. I mean, the library, the school board is, they have everybody there every week, every month, and the village since they've had their new board, they're betting 1,000 too. So at least you're kind of getting close to 1,000. So that's good. But I'm here. I've been following this about the 7.7 million redecorating project. I've been following that for a while, been coming to meetings and so forth, sending out some emails. Thing that really strikes me is just the blatant disrespect you as a board have for the residents and the taxpayers of this community. It's obnoxious. And I'll give you some specific examples. Number one, you're not refuse, even though you say that, oh, we reduced taxes 3 years in a row, but you're going to be raising taxes for the next 20. And you're not telling anybody that. Marjorie, do you tell your friends that you're raising taxes for the next 20 on this redecorating project? I bet not. So I just really see some genuine disrespect, and it just appalls me. And the fact is, you're not putting it out to referendum. I saw Bill Loftus's email. Have you seen? How many of you saw Bill Loftus's email? Came to the board today. He sent me a copy. And he hit on a lot of things. He wants a referendum. So do so many people. Let the voters, let the taxpayers decide. I mean, Tatiana, you said, oh, it's 2-1, 4. Okay, Tatiana, if it is such a great idea, why don't you put it out to the referendum? Why aren't you endorsing it to put on the referendum, Tatiana? Why? If it's such a great idea to raise taxes for the next 20 years. Because people are not against, modernizing the library. That's not the case. It's the amount, and just the fact you're going to raise a tax increase. I saw a disrespect for Jenny Norton. Jenny Norton looked at it and said, let's spend $6 million. And you basically all just gave her the Heisman Trophy. You know the Heisman Trophy, the stiff arm? You all Heismaned her. Person who really did a good, thoughtful look at it. You all Heismaned her. Because you basically started with a $13 million project, and you didn't even look. You did it backwards. We know that. You didn't look to what you could afford versus, what you wanted to spend. You did it backwards. You said, let's create all these plans. It started off at $13 to $15 million. And even now it's 7.7. There's $900,000 in consulting fees. It just amazes me because, $4,000 per employee for furniture and the redecorating project. What about some, upgrade to your IT? I spoke to somebody, they tried to get a relatively popular book, a 6-month wait at the library for audiobooks. Is that serving clients? Another disrespect, the children's area, still off limits. I saw the pictures. I just walked up there again, still off limits. No reading area for children, no reading area for adults, no study area. I know somebody had a student home from college, came here to Lisle Library, no place to sit down to study, had to go to Naperville. The parents are Lisle taxpayers. Another disrespect. I mean, should I go on and on and on? It's, modernizing the library is a good idea. But let's look at the fact with the realities. Online usage is going up. Physical utilization is going down. All your metrics show that. But yet you're going through a redecorating project of the physical plant. The thing is that other things I stuck out, Marjorie, a constituent I sent out an email. You replied to a constituent sent an additional email to you. You replied back. This constituent sent me the whole email chain. Margie, it wasn't even your response. It was Tatiana's response that she prepared, and it didn't even answer the questions. It didn't even get to the facts. You use your favorite term, Tatiana, misinformation. Misinformation, you use that when you don't argue, when you don't have the facts. Margie, it was I'm surprised. I voted for you to protect Lisle's taxpayers and protect our interests. And Marjorie, it didn't even answer the questions. Did you not even read it? I'm just appalled. I didn't think that was how you operated. It's very disappointed. And so was that neighbor.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay.
Mr. Soika.
So what I'm asking, go to referendum before it's too late, before the consultants pocket their fees, before you start putting shovels in the ground. Go to referendum or reopen Jenny's approach to spending $6 million, which can, by thinking by kind of coming back anew, looking at it,
That would be 30 seconds.
you will,
Mr. Soika,
okay, but thank you, but please respect the taxpayers, respect the residents.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
And there are none online.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4, trustee recognition. May I have a motion to approve resolution 21-01, commendation for Thomas Hummel?
This is Vice President Swistak. I move to approve Resolution 21-01, Trustee Hummel commendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can the person who made the motion please read the resolution?
Sure. All right. Be it resolved that the following is true and accurate. Whereas Thomas Hummel has served on the Board of Trustees for the Lisle Library District since May 2013 and has served as Board President of the Lisle Library District 2019 through 2021, and whereas has served as Board Vice President of the Lisle Library District 2017 through 2019, and whereas has served on the LLD Physical Plant Committee 2014 through 2019 and chaired the committee 2017 through 2019, and whereas has served on the LLD Personnel and Policy Committee 2017 through 2019, and whereas has served on the LLD Strategic Planning Committee 2018, and whereas has served on the Information Stewardship Committee 2013 through 2016, and whereas has reliably represented the district's vision, mission, and values, and whereas has demonstrated support for governmental transparency, and whereas has encouraged community engagement with district residents, and whereas Thomas Hummel has enriched our meetings with his financial acumen, steadiness, and commitment. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District that Thomas Hummel be commended for his admirable service to the district. This resolution has been adopted by the LLD Board of Trustees this 19th day of May 2021.
Roll call, please.
Emily Swistak,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Whoops. Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. We'll now allow for Mr. Hummel to provide a few words in acknowledgement.
Right, well, thank you very much for the resolution. When I first started in 2013, I didn't think I would be here for 8 years, but I'm happy with the time I've been here. I'm proud of the work we did here, both the board and the staff. I'm proud that we were able to lower taxes, not only maintain but improve services, and now do a renovation project, which I support. I am happy to know that the vendors of this project have signed letters stating they will not contribute to any political campaigns. Also, I would like to note that there was a consensus from all of our financial consultants that the library will always have enough in reserves. I was honored to serve with all of you and also all past board members over the years. Good luck to all of you in the future, and good luck to Trustee Duffy on the village board. I'm always willing to help And so feel free to reach out if you have any questions or anything. So thank you.
We have a little party gift for you. You get your name plate.
What was it?
Yeah. Recycle. Well,
May I have a motion to approve resolution 21-02, commendation for Thomas Duffy?
This is Treasurer Norton. I move to approve Resolution 21-02. And
Is there a second?
wait, hang on, that wasn't done there. The Thomas Duffy commendation.
I'll second.
Can the person who made the motion please read the resolution?
Not as well as the first one was read, but I'll try. Be it resolved that the following is true and accurate, whereas Thomas Duffy has served on the Board of Trustees for the Lisle Library District since May 2019, and whereas he has served on the LLD Personnel and Policy Committee from 2019 to 2021, and whereas Thomas Duffy has served on the LLD Finance Committee from 2019 to 2021, and whereas he has reliably represented the district's vision, mission, and values, and whereas he has benefited the LLD Board of Trustees with his attention to policy procedural detail, and whereas he has encouraged volunteerism at the LLD and within the community at large, and whereas he has championed an environmental policy for the library, and best one, whereas he has persuasively promoted increased disinfection and sanitation measures within the facility, vigorously, I would add, whereas he has consistently supported LLD programs, especially for children and families, and whereas Thomas Duffy has elevated our meetings with his insight, wit, and advocacy, therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District that Thomas Duffy be commended for his exemplary service to the district. This resolution has been adopted by the LLD Board of Trustees this 19th day of May 2021.
Roll call?
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Emily Swissack,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. And now allow Mr. Duffy to provide a few words and acknowledge.
Up here right now.
Yes.
I thought I was done with this. First of all, those bathrooms are very clean now. So. Now, I just want to say thank you. And first of all the nice things were said there about Tom, well deserved. Your service was stellar to this organization, and I very much enjoyed how you ran the board and how fair you were. That was something that I always enjoyed. I would just say this: getting elected is not a lot of people do this, so we're kind of probably all just a little bit crazy for doing it. It's it's a very thankless job, but I know this much, that the right people are in the room and online for the hard decisions that you guys have to make. I've talked with this community investment is key, and I think all taxpayers should be represented, and the ones like myself, who are not on the board any longer, want to see a thriving library. And I think you guys are well positioned for this. I just want to say again, thank you. I will not forget my roots, as I did a 5.5-hour meeting on Monday. So President Bartelli, let's make sure they stay here till midnight. But I know, thank you. And you always have a partner in me at the Village. Please feel free to reach out. And now I'm going to go catch a flight to Florida and be gone for a week. So no, earn that one. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have a parting gift for you.
We have an official resolution to sign and give to you.
Yeah, let's do it.
You can do it right now. For you to have. A keepsake.
Resolution. Is it for my name? Thank you.
Okay.
If you sign that.
Okay.
It's your turn.
Make sure you get the right person, the right one.
Okay. I'd like to add to Mr. Hummel and Mr. Duffy, we now expect those to be framed and on your wall of achievements at home.
Make sure I get copies.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you. Proceed to agenda item number 5, refers to trustees Hummel and Duffy being elected to other governmental seats. And accordingly, the LLD Board of Trustees is officially announcing that there are 2 trustee seats up for appointment. Per LLD Policy 200, LLD Board Bylaws, the LLD shall appoint new trustees consistent with Illinois election law. In general, the LLD will officially post for the openings, ask for candidate information, review that information, hold interviews, and then appoint the best qualified candidates. The action item on the agenda asks that the board authorize the Personnel and Policy Committee to update the procedural information and direct staff to post the information via proper LLD channels. May I have a motion?
I move to authorize the LLD Personnel and Policy Committee to update trustee appointment documents and direct staff to post candidate information via proper LLD communication channels.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
We get the second.
Liz.
All right, Karen Larson,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Emily Swistad,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Agenda item 6 acknowledges that trustees Swistak and Sullivan reviewed the April billings in May, and that trustees Norton and Larson will review the May billings in June. Agenda item number 7 is the consent agenda. Is there a trustee who wishes to pull something from the consent agenda? Any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda. This is the Treasurer Norton.
I'll second.
Now, is there any discussion? Roll call, Chris. Thank you.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Emily Swistad,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Item number 8 is unfinished business. Letter A, capital improvement projects. Ask for approval to proceed to the schematic phase of design, noting that the past couple of months have focused on the concept design phase, which confirmed a $7.7 million budget and basic floor plan and departmental layout. The schematic phase will involve more detailed designs of the interior and exterior. In the packet, there was also a square footage chart. May I have a motion and a second? And then CCS, Mark Rogers, can elaborate more on this chart during the discussion.
I move to approve proceeding to a schematic design phase per the April 16th, 2021 concept design phase report information.
Vice President Swistak seconds.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the chart a little bit?
Sure, I can do that. I think, just to recap, this chart was put together because at the last board meeting, I was requested to see a comparison of the existing area layout versus or space allocation versus what is being projected, the concept plans. So one thing before I jump into this and go to at a high level, I will note is that these numbers will be refined through the next stages of design. So during the schematic design phase, during the design development, you're still going to have time to bring these up or down or whatever else. And really, that's a function of as furniture layouts are put in there, as the book stacks are put in there, there's going to be time to modify where all that needs to be to make sure that the board is okay with the plans. What we're really asking for today, before going on to the next step of design, is that at a very high level, is this rough allocation about right? Does it seem to be what the library needs? And so a few highlights that I'll pull out is right at the top, the youth services. There's over a 2,000 square foot increase to the youth services department. And that really better aligns it with the needs of the space. I think that's something that the board has identified a long time ago, that we need to improve the ability of A, families to get to the children's department, but B, once they're there, the services that it provides. So that's reflected in that change. The adult services does decrease. Now, some people would say, well, why is it going down? Or losing things or whatever else? And in the packet, actually, I'm glad it ended up on the same page. There's a little floor plan of what your current adult stacks are laid out to be. And if you look to the bottom right of that floor plan, there are 3 stacks that are just up and down. Do you look like that? You can see how tight those stacks are. That is traditional stack layout in a library, so it's efficient use of space. As you move, I'll call it clockwise, you can see the giant amounts of space between stacks that is underutilized. That's how the architects are able to confidently say we're going to be able to take your needed collection and fit it into a new space, because we're not going to have this wasted space from our radial stack arrangement. So that plus some efficiencies in circulation. We're not having to, basically dedicate, I'll call it this off the cuff, a quarter to a third of the center of the building in adult to circulation space. You're able to make it more feasible or functional, I should say. So there are some reasons for doing that. The other thing is that it better aligns with the youth services and really plays to what the library needs to do to provide a service to patrons. Going down the line, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I would like to point out the team. It's somewhat hard to tell in the board packet, but the 310 is somewhat grayed out, and that's just because there is no dedicated teen space today. It was just an area accounting that the architects did to say, okay, this is your teen collection, where you have it in either adult or youth. We're going to combine it and give it a little bit extra space so you can put some, again, I'll call it not program space, but areas for teens to gather, for teens to use the library. It's not just going to be book collection, it's going to be a functional collection like a modern library has. That's where you get that little bit of increase. And the 460 square feet, it won't be 460, it might be a little bit more, a little bit less. You'll determine that as we go through, but that is going to be a dedicated teen space as compared to no dedicated space right now. The rest of it, just at a high level, you're seeing an increase in meeting room and meeting and study rooms. That's to get the additional meeting rooms that you want. This space is going to remain the same outline, so there's no change in this space, just some added spaces throughout the floor plan. You can see the total overall dedication space to the public has gone up slightly. The support areas has gone up slightly, but that's more of a function that you're reutilizing your staff areas essentially as staff areas, and just expanding a little bit where needed to make sure you have the right space, especially upstairs in the renovated second floor, upper floor. The net change in area is just a small increase, so there's not much difference there, but it's just how the spaces are allocated throughout the building and better aligning that to the modern library. With that being said, are there any questions on this chart?
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
There was also a lot of help from Amy at Shenandoah Hartrick pulling this together. So it was a team effort to get this set up work with.
No, it was good.
Thank you, Mark. Sure. Any other discussion? Paul?
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Emily Sostak,
Aye.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Letter B, communications plan. Ask for a consensus opinion regarding the objectives outlined in the director's report. May I have a motion and a second? And then the director can provide more information on this agenda item.
I move to approve the objectives as outlined and affirmed by the board regarding the Communications Awareness Initiative report.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, so at the April 21st board meeting, trustees wanted a plan for more community engagement regarding the renovation. And in the report, I've outlined a few ways we can achieve more engagement. So number one is to agree on what the board views as important highlights of the renovation. And in the report, I've listed 6. First of all, right-sizing the departments and creating efficiencies, increasing the youth services area to echo the square footage of adult services, creating a teen area, adding study spaces, and introducing automation to circulation function. Number 2, we were talking about increasing accessibility, adding family restrooms, a drive-up service window, the south entrance elevator, having nearby service desks at points of entry, and then having a centralized circulation desk. And then number 3, centralize the entrances on the north and south side, providing clear entry identification, optimizing the parking lot accessibility, not only for patrons, but optimizing it for emergency vehicles as well. Enhancing technology, that means RFID technology as well as Wi-Fi access, and increasing the electrical access points for patron devices throughout the building. And then also highlighting that we're improving our security and sight lines throughout the building, and outdoor program and reading areas. If there are any others, after I go through this, we can add to it, or if you think that these 6 provide enough kind of bullet points to reach out to the public and talk about the features, we can go with these. Then B is to use the Villa Park Public Library flyer as an example for inclusions in a similar like flyer that we might use, showing budget and financial impacts, highlighting our improvements, of course, and the benefits of a renovation in general. And then C was to determine the modes of communication, those being our LLD Connections newsletter, using in-house flyers and posters, using email, e-blast, posting things on our website, doing a number of social media posts on the topic, using infographics and photos, as well as creating videos. We can also do mailings and postcards or a specialized brochure. And then, of course, having regular meetings on the topic, regular board meetings, having focus groups, and then community meetings. And then lastly, in the report, it outlines the methods and the costs involved in providing additional engagement. So we can do this additional engagement via a specialized renovation newsletter and or a half-pay mailing to all residents. The printing costs could range anywhere between $1,200 and $1,800 for a complete district distribution, and that's subject to the number of pages, of course, or the formatting, colors, that kind of thing. We can also do targeted satisfaction surveys about specific areas in the library. This idea came by a webinar that Trustee Sullivan actually recommended I watch, and it was great. It was put out by Library Journal, and they thought targeted surveys really made more sense and really honed in on certain areas that we are focusing on for the renovation. And as I mentioned, we can also create videos featuring areas in and around the library regarding the improvement project. We'd like both staff and trustees
to participate here, and of course, having renovation progress videos throughout the entire project. Number 4 refers to open houses with the public. We can call them milestone meetings, and we proposed 3 of these types of meetings where we would invite the general public to come. The first one being a concept, design, and budget meeting, kind of going over what we've gone over every board meeting, just including the entire public, having the architects here, having our owners rep here, and doing this in either late May, we're almost in late May, or early June. The second one being an open house regarding schematic design ideas. This would include floor plans and exterior plans, a little more on the detail side of things, and doing this sometime in July. And then having a finalized design development open house with obviously finalized designs sometime in September. And then lastly is connecting with stakeholders as well as with the general public and intergovernmental group leaders, surveying those people and inviting them to the open houses as well. And all in all, our goal is to not only inform but involve as many residents as possible through this entire project. And at the end of the report, I also listed some target audiences for the specific areas and the facilities for those satisfaction surveys, as was suggested by Library Journal. It really outlines everyone. I mean, it lists seniors, adults, teens, and kids. I think everybody falls into one of those categories, but it also segments people as many marketing activities do. So we can either talk about like the parent segment of the population, or the home delivery patron segment, or patrons with disabilities segment. So as we discuss the different highlights of our renovation, we can try and target those audience and ask them for their unique perspective on what we are looking to improve in the building. And then just to better hone the questions, I provided a few sample questions for those type of surveys at the end of the report. And I won't do those, but that was just to give you some example of what and how we can ask those audiences questions. That's my report. Any feedback or additions, subtractions? I just want to know if we can move forward with it, because it does, some of this does include costs like the mailings and things like that. So I wanted to make sure that that was at least expressed, and so everyone's aware that there will be a little bit of a cost if we intend to use the mailing. And we do budget for, I forgot the line, community, I forgot the line in the budget. It's
Well, we have a newsletter budget.
we already have a newsletter budget, but this would go above and beyond that with I think the community relations budget line, and so we would use that. I'm sorry, Liz, I interrupted.
Well, I just think you've put in a great deal of effort. I think you've hit a variety of points, and I'm totally in favor of us having two-way communications. You know, sharing information, getting information from the public, and making small adjustments, and then going forward. I think this is great.
I agree. We would expect then at the next monthly meeting, we'll have a progress report on
Of course.
how all this is coming together.
Of course.
Okay, great.
Will you be sending things out before our next meeting, or is there time to discuss it more, or should we talk? Just in these sample questions, I just had something that didn't flow correctly to me, and I wasn't sure if we were going to use this or not. So if this is my only chance to talk about it, I want to talk about it now. Otherwise, okay. So just in the first one, where it's parents/caregivers, that one. Number 2, it's an or question, so it can't be yes or no for the answer.
All right.
And so that was the only thing. Otherwise, I really like the questions that were out there, and to get people's feedback and everything. And I think that's really good. And I'm really looking forward to getting more input from the community. I think it's really important that we do that and find out how they're feeling about things as well as we move forward.
And as President Bartelli had just asked, as we move towards some of these surveying of the public, I will inform the board as we move forward, show the board the questions we intend to ask, and then if there's any, adjustments, we'll take those into consideration and move forward with those. So I won't just go and do, I can't do all of this before the next meeting anyway, but I will keep you apprised as we move forward with this.
Is there a way when we get to that point, like something that we can format it, like you're saying, that we can hand patrons when they do their book checkout, but then if, you want to take the time, or maybe we have like a location or a box or something, or they could put it in, or,
Sure, we would absolutely have a digital version and paper version. We can have a box at the circulation desk or any of the public service desks upstairs and downstairs.
yeah, great.
So, all right. So one thing I'll bring up too, and we're actually doing something very similar for the library, and we've done it before, which was great, for these open house type meetings. One of the things that it plays exactly out, and actually I haven't seen some of these questions before Tatiana put it in the board packet, it almost aligns perfectly with them, is for the open house meeting, you might have an adult board, right, or something like that, or for this one, I think looking at this, adult senior citizens might be a board, technology might be a board, and what they're doing is they're really putting images of what the questions are. What would you use your library for? So that people come in, they take stickers. The library will provide just a little cheap, the library will provide a roll of cheap stickers. Mm-hmm. And you ask the patrons to put a sticker on, if there's 6 images, 2 of the images that are their favorite that they would come to the library to use. And that gives you some feedback to then tell the design team, okay, we have this space, this is what we're designing around. Let's insert these types of functionalities into it as the design goes. And I think the questions in the surveys, we can utilize those to kind of put together 2 or 3 boards maybe that are in here for open houses. And you can not only tell the patrons what you're doing, but that also allows them to kind of give you some feedback of, this is what I'd like to use my library. Just the point.
And Mark was talking about a physical board.
Yes.
Where you would put things on.
And what library was this?
We're doing that right now in Antioch. Actually, that open house is this Saturday. So, and we've done that something very similar to Oak Park. And it's fairly common. You don't expect to get at these open houses 100 people. You want to be able to have a little conversation piece with the 5 to 10, to sometimes 20 that might come in. That's a great way to get their comments and get them talking about things as well.
Dr. Weinstein, would you be open to having the board send you suggestions?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Just like an opportunity to have with me. Any other question? Roll call?
Wait, sorry, Marjorie. I was too timid with my hand up. That's okay.
Sorry.
Still time for me to provide feedback, I hope?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I want to start off by saying genuinely, I think this is a great, start, and everything that's in it, I think is going to be very helpful, especially as Trustee Sullivan mentioned, the 2-way communication part. I really like the open houses, but the overall concepts and scope of the communication plan as is are good, and I think we're going to flesh out more as a group as we talk about it more. So I appreciate that. I do just want to call out, I know it was already said that, we are going to talk about the survey questions later on. I want to make sure that we get something in there that shows something either open-ended, because I appreciate targeting. I think that's wise and I think that's smart, but we've got to, we're reaching out to everyone. We got to get out. We've got to give them an opportunity to give us something back that hasn't been directly asked. And I do think we should also find a way to get their feedback in some way on the financial aspect of it. Now, we're going to tell them a lot of information about the financial aspect of it and try to get them comfortable with it. But I think we deserve to hear that. We want to know how many people are comfortable with what they know and what they don't know, and whether they think that this is reasonable or not.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chris, roll call, please.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Emily Swissack,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Agenda item number 9, excuse me, our committee reports. One quick word about the committees. New committee arrangements may be announced as soon as the June board meeting. February is final. There is a report. Jenny, any finance committee report?
None to update yet.
Thank you. Under personnel,
The Personnel Policy Committee will meet next Tuesday, May 25th at 10 o'clock a.m. in the meeting room here.
thank you. There's no report at this time. Agenda item number 10, staff reports. Director's report.
Okay, my report does nothing working budget, but I'm gonna move on, we're gonna discuss that down on the agenda. The bulk of my report refers to the new CDC guidelines and library operations. As we all know, on Thursday, May 13th, the CDC issued new guidelines on mask wearing. And because the library has stated via policy, physical signage, and via digital post that we are following CDC guidelines, we will abide by those recommendations. Since Thursday, we continue to recommend that masks be worn at the building because we cannot verify the vaccination status of any patron. And we also serve children who are not yet eligible for vaccination. The library has continued to use the acrylic barriers in the building, and we kept all other safety and health protocols as of this evening. And just a note that as of now, 90% of the staff are vaccinated or halfway there with one shot under their belt. And 2 days ago, on Monday, Governor Pritzker and the Illinois Department of Public Health have announced that Illinois will align state orders with the latest CDC guidelines, and that the CDC continues to require masks for everyone in healthcare settings, on public transit, in schools, and in daycares. So where does the library fit in with the new CDC announcement? I've been on many phone calls with other directors of libraries, and I've met with staff on this topic, and I've outlined in my report some operational changes that I'd like the board to weigh in on. Number one, that the library will continue to abide by the current CDC and state recommendations for general library use. Number two, being that youth services department will be a kids zone equals a mask zone. And this is because children under 12 are not yet eligible for vaccination, and we will strongly encourage that everyone visiting the WIRE department wear a mask. We will have signage library-wide throughout the building that recommends that masks be worn because children under 12 are not yet eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. There's other residents that have not been yet vaccinated, and then to ensure that the library environment for patrons and staff remains a safe and healthy place. And because vaccinations are on the increase and cases are decreasing, we will open up areas for section study and meeting on both the adult and youth services floor. Staff will continue to wear masks and use PPE equipment. We are going to cease quarantining items in the building. We're going to do this after a period of about a week. I conferred with circulation on that. We are planning and currently planning for larger outdoor programming events. We are looking to utilize meeting room A and authorizing it for small group meeting or some programming. Even more public computer stations will become available. We have computer stations available now, but we'd like to broaden that. We'll no longer restrict visits to 1 hour. The elevator use, we have a sign on the door that says it's for one person or one family at a time. They would go back to normal use. We would like to continue offering curbside pickup service. It's still very popular with some patrons, and it's very convenient for those who have mobility challenges. And we will continue to sanitize high traffic areas throughout the building and use the acrylic barriers. Again, these operational recommendations come via consultation with department directors. And of course, if the case rates rise or if another health emergency happens, we'll adjust as appropriate per our policy. And we'd like to implement the changes as soon as possible, just with the caveat that we'll need to properly notify patrons of some changes before launching some of these things, as well as make some furniture and room adjustments. And we might have to update some online calendar notifications. So I'd say within the next week or so, we should be able to accomplish this kind of a rollout of kind of loosening some restrictions and putting up some more signage throughout the building. I'd like some feedback from the board and a blessing maybe to move forward with this.
Anyone?
Sorry.
Liz?
Liz.
What's your feeling on this, Tatiana? Are you being forced into this, or is this something you feel good about?
I feel good about all of these recommendations. Again, I've met with the department directors on this. Everyone feels comfortable. We're kind of rolling it out in a measured way. We're not, saying that every study room will be open and the complete meeting room will be open for, large groups of people. We're starting small, and then we will gradually open up as the vaccinations rise and the cases lower even further.
Okay, great.
Anyone else?
No, I think it sounds reasonable.
Good job. Lots of information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I really appreciate how quickly you put this together after the announcement so quickly. It was just kind of like, oh no, now what? I appreciate the fact that you mentioned how, we had already created our policy about to the government agencies like the CDC and the IDPH, and how we're going to base what we're doing off of that, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the strong encouragement that everyone visiting youth services will wear a mask, just especially because kids under 12 are not eligible to be vaccinated yet, and I think that that's a proactive move, and I really appreciate that.
All right, we'll move on to the assistant director's report.
Okay, each spring, the library fire systems, that would be the alarms, the sprinklers, the smoke detectors are checked, and everything was deemed to be working properly and no repairs were found to be needed at this time. I attended the IMRF employer meeting, which was held in May, and the plan has had 2 successive years of better than average financial returns. The Lisle Library District will receive a final report for the 2022 calendar year, and that will come in November. The Polaris, the little library's operating system, was updated in May. The update process was smooth, and the catalog was available shortly after we opened that day, so it was deemed a success. And that's the summary of my report.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions for Assistant Director McMillan? Thank you. Agenda item number 11 is new business. We have 3 contracts to approve at tonight's meeting. We have library attorney Mark Ritzman. Is Roger also on? I don't believe so.
Roger's here. He's sitting in the office with me.
I'm waiting in the wings, so to speak, just to keep up with what's going on here.
Okay. They are online to answer any questions. And our attorneys have reviewed all 3 contracts, communicated with all entities, and provided writers to the contracts that require them. Just move on to 11A. And the contract for CCS. May I have a motion to approve this contract in a second? And we'll open up the floor for discussion.
This is Vice President Swistak. I move to approve the contract for owner's representation by CCS for the LLD capital improvement project.
I'll second.
I'll hand it off to Liz.
Okay. So the contracts are in the packet. If there are any questions, we have our attorney here to answer them. And we also have our doctors here to answer any questions.
May I just ask a question? I mean, I'll ask the question and you'll tell me if it's a question to ask after, since you don't know what it's going to be. But it was brought to my attention that we have the contract drafts in our trustee packets, but it's not part of what is posted online. Will the finalized versions be posted online, or was it meant to be posted before this meeting? I just wanted to get that question out there.
No, we don't generally post contracts when there's still discussion to be had on them. I mean, technically, they're still in negotiation period. If someone wanted to see them after our meeting, please send them to whoever wishes to see them. Any other discussion questions?
Yeah, I have
Yes.
some.
Sorry. Go ahead, Liz. Sorry.
Oh, it's on page 8. And this is just a nit. It's under item 3.1.3, project meetings. It says that the owner's rep will attend meetings. I'm thinking you should probably pick either shall or will.
We did one, that's three.
3.1 shall will.
I mean, I don't know legally what's the difference between a shall and a will. Probably
Yeah,
should be one.
I suppose that's the same thing. Really, it's probably is a typo in the agreement. I don't think that it's kind of a harmless error at this point. Shall and will are kind of mean the same thing. The owner will do it. The owner shall attend bi-weekly meetings. You know,
That's just double checking to make sure we're going to be at meetings. I'm sure if someone wanted us just to hatch that out, we typically see the word shall. I defer to Mark on that, but
yeah, shall is usually used when there's a required a duty to do something or a requirement to do something. I guess you would use shall. You could use will. In this case, if you'd like to edit that out, we could always cross out will on our final contract and have both parties initial it, as opposed to sending it back through drafting. We can just, both parties initial it. I feel pretty good with that.
Either way, I'm fine. I just used to edit for a living, so whatever you decide's fine.
Yeah, you want to do that, Mark? I guess we'll just cross out will and initial it. Does that work for you?
that sounds perfect for us. I'm no issue at all with that.
Okay.
Okay, I do have some others, but if somebody else wanted to go, that'd be great.
I'll take it back over for a second, Liz. It's on the same spirit of, grammatical type things. Back on page 1, item number 2. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong, and nobody has to cross anything out. But the sentence reads, owner and OR and architect should cooperate to, I believe the right word there is ensure, not insure.
Which provision is this?
Sorry, I'm on the rider to agreement for owner's representative. It's contract packet page 1.
I see that paragraph 2, page 1 of the rider.
Yes.
Yes, I guess I'm in agreement. That should be ensure, ENSURE. We can go ahead and initial that too if you'd like. And write it in and initial it. Does that work for you, Mark?
Yeah, that's fine. Any of these types of issues, it's not going to be an issue.
Right nearby that, again, this is hopefully just clerical and maybe even doesn't need to be changed in this case, but 3, has a subtopic A, and it's kind of odd to me to have a single subtopic. I don't know why, unless there were other things that got struck out, but,
there were other provisions that were struck. Mark and I worked through them, and instead of, leaving like a big omitted, we just left it there because that's kind of one of those, if you go back and forth and then editing multiple drafts and all of a sudden you see, wait a minute, where did paragraph 3 go? It's probably easier to just, as you go through multiple drafts, as you can track changes, you see, okay, there it is. Yes, I remember provisions B, C, D, and E were struck.
Yeah, it used to be A, so you left it A.
Yeah. And I've done it before where you have B, C, D, and E omitted. But once those start to add up and all of a sudden, instead of having a 4 or 5 page rider, you have a 10 or 12 and it's a bunch of pages that just say omitted. So we kind of, for ease of tracking it.
I mean, yeah, the goal here is, to not have anybody be confused, and as long as no one would be confused, we're good to go. But the last thing on here did leave me a little confused. It's the very last thing on this same page. There's an ellipsis at the end of the footnote B, and I just didn't know what that was about. It seemed like, kind of a mystery novel would have a to be continued kind of a thing going on, but this isn't a mystery novel.
You know what ellipsis meaning the dot, dot, dot?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's because that provision, that's the operative part of that provision, of the statutory provision that kind of matters to us. And I believe that if we included the whole rest of paragraph B, it could be like 2 pages of footnotes. And so that was the operative part. So we kind of left that off. One of the things we could have done, like if you see that A and B there in the footnote, they refer to paragraph 5 of the rider, and you have the asterisk or the star after 735. We could have just left it as all limitations within 735 ILCS 5-13 or 5/13-214. But then what happens is someone like Mark or Julie or whoever else working with goes, well, what is that? Okay, I got to go to my attorney, and then they got to pick it up. So it's a lot easier for us to say, here's the operative part. We'll save you the time.
I mean, if it's a standard legal abbreviation to do that sort of thing, when you want to cite part of your source but not the whole novel, that's new to me.
If after our dealings they didn't quite trust me, they could say, I got to go see make sure this is the right citation. But I think after they've done that a couple times, they go, okay, Ritzman's got enough credibility to go, yeah, if he cites this statute, here's what he says it says, and that's what's operative, we're going to trust him on it.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. Or Roger's son. Sorry if I mixed it already. You're under Roger's name on the Zoom or the.
I know, I see that. That's the link we clicked in under. It's Mark, but Ritzman's fine. If you say Roger, I don't know who you're talking to. Oh, you might get Mark Rogers' attention too.
Yeah, if you want to add S to that Roger, you would really be confused. We have 2 Mark Rogers.
Yeah, this is really, we got a Mark Rogers, we got a Mark and a Roger. This is, yeah.
Thank you for acknowledging a good reason for my confusion. That was all. Liz, volleyball back to you. You ready?
Yes. Okay. I don't know, since the architect isn't here, what I wanted to make sure is that we retain ownership of all the architect's drawings, even to the level of landscape drawings that identify every type of plant that they're put in. And I've run into a situation where plant dies and you want to replace it with the exact same type of plant. If you don't have a schematic that identifies that, you have a real hard time. So I hope we own all those drawings.
I'll let him, but in essence, yes. The architect does their drawings. Those drawings, when they're complete, are your drawings. You hold on to them, and then to your point, Liz, at the end of the project, there will be a closeout binder that CCS ensures that you get. So basically, we gather the information from the architect, from the contractors, the multiple contractors, the FF&E vendors, and we turn it over to the library and say, here's your final closeout documentation. So you can see, if there's a plant or whatever it might be, this is what it is. And it also includes product maintenance manuals, product data manuals, all of that comes together. So.
And it's generally one binder.
It's
numerous binders.
Nowadays,
I worked in engineering, and
yes,
when you close out a project and for a specific thing, it's multiple binders with drawings and revision, the drawings and revisions, the final drawings, the issue of construction, it's everything, manuals, like you said.
Right.
It's very detailed.
Yep.
Great. And as much as we can get both in paper form and digitally would be great too.
It's typically paper. Entities are actually giving the option to say, we only want electronic because they don't want to have to store storage box of stuff for the next 100 years. But usually it's all printed out and given to you. That's the typical standard. And then there's a flash drive or flash drives.
Okay. And then this is on page, let me see where I am. Our packet page 42. But I don't know what page it is of the overall contract. This is a real nit. I'm sorry?
Are you in the architect or in the owner's rep?
If I could jump in here too, just to clarify that last question about the drawings and the project manual, there is a provision in the rider with the architect that says the architect shall provide the construction documents to owner and owner's representative in electronic format compatible with AutoCAD. So they'll get us an electronic format of all the drawings and specs. They have an obligation to do that. Generally, they would anyways, as Mark explained, but there is an obligation on the architect to do that. I also, that's as to the architect contract, though.
Yeah, and Trustee Sullivan, just to clarify, I believe in your packet, the current agenda item that we're reviewing goes up to page 36. Anything beyond that would be the next agenda item, just so you're aware.
Okay. One of them's a typo, so let's just skip that one. But the other one is owner's rider to B101-2017, which starts on page 44.
Just if I could jump in here real quick, are we finished with the owner's rep contract? Because that's the architect contract.
We haven't voted on that one yet.
Trustee Sullivan, the ones you're talking about right now are for the architect contract.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
We'll get through CCSs and then we'll move on to those.
Gotcha. So I'm done with the owner's rep.
Okay.
So
go home, Mark. I'm done.
Now I gotta make sure everything else gets sorted out right. I'm here to answer questions on this one, and then I got want to make sure for the architect side of things.
I have a suggestion to solve the identity problem. You have Mark Rogers, then you have young Ritzman, and then you have old Ritzman. That way we can fill all the players.
That's the way we talked on the phone to get this resolved too, isn't it?
I have a couple questions, Mark. On page 16, 5.1.2,
Thank you.
we talk about the scope of the basic services is increased or the duration of the OR's basic services is extended. Who would extend it?
The library board would have to make a
The
decision.
owner.
The owner would have to make a decision to do that. CCS cannot unilaterally do that, and your project schedule is your project schedule as we get going here. If there is a change to it, shorter or longer, you prove that.
Okay. More, let's see. When we, on page 22, we talk about 8.1.1, liability insurance. I don't believe we mentioned anything, and I might be out of line on this. Are we speaking about any liability in the event an employee or resident is injured during the renovation? How is that covered?
During construction, I'll let Mark speak to this a bit, but during the renovation project, you'll have two forms of protection, I guess. One, and the primary source, is the contractor's insurance. So that's not your owner's rep, it's not your architect, it's your contractor that you're going to bring on later. That's a whole other package that Mark Ritzman and Roger Ritzman will be very in depth with, and making sure that we're vetting that. The other part is you would go and get a builder's risk insurance. It's a different type, but there's those layers. So Mark, do you want to clarify anything more than that?
Yeah, generally speaking, Mark is right that it would be covered under the contractor's insurance if someone was hurt, I mean, by that. And as part of our contract with the contractor, we'd have them name us as an additional insured. So that if someone, for example, a patron was injured, it would be covered under their policy and not ours. Now, if the injury was, say, catastrophic, we'd probably have, we would have insurance that was over and above what their policy was. Hopefully, we'd never have to figure out, find out the answer to that question if we've gone beyond their insurance policy, but we would have our own insurance to do that. And this is something, we can always talk to our insurance agent about and say, look, do we have the appropriate insurance for this project? Because I generally recommend that for all projects is people, how much insurance do we have? And say, well, we should probably ask our agent and say, are we covered for this specific risk? We have our general liability coverage, which protects us against, say, slip and falls, and that would probably be brought in. Mark mentioned, a builder's risk insurance, which we would probably want to go ahead and cover us as well. And between those two policies and anything else our insurance agent recommends, combined with the being an additional insured on our contractor's insurance policy, we should be covered in a number of ways.
And so the board and Mark are aware there is a budget line item for builder's risk insurance in the project budget, because a lot of times entities buy that as part of the project, and you're just doing it then. So that if it's used or not used, you determine with your legal counsel, but it's there.
Built into that 7.7 budget.
Generally that could be, the builder's risk insurance can be shopped. Shopped is probably the wrong word, but it can be purchased in a couple of ways. One, the contractor can purchase it and we reimburse them as part of the contract. The other part is we can go and just get it ourselves independently with our agent. Generally, you'd go with whatever's cheapest, and that's often the builder's, I'm calling it builder, but what I mean to say is the contractor purchases it and then we pay for it through our fees of the contractor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, please.
Emily Twistad.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Marjorie Martell.
Aye.
Thank you. We're excited to be working with you. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I forgot to say this, but I kind of wanted to say that, big thumbs up on this one for me. Not just the wording of the contract, but the counterparty to the contract.
Item 11B, contract for Sheehan, Nagel, and Hartree Architects. To approve this contract, and a second, and we'll open the floor for discussion.
I move to approve the contract for architectural services by Sheehan, Nagel, and Hartree for the LLD capital improvement project.
Second.
Okay, so that contract looks like begins on page 38 of the board packet, and the floor is open for questions. I know Trustee Sullivan has some comments.
Yes, please. I'm on page 46 of our packet, I believe, or of the contract packet. And I got a little confused, I'm going to say, through these couple of pages because it felt like there was a lot of repetition of paragraphs. But maybe that was just my misunderstanding. And then on page 46, number 10, it references Kane County.
Which document is this?
This is the Sheehan Nagel Architect contract.
I think it's the owner rider, the V101-27. This is the one
Yeah.
that,
Page 3 of the rider, yes.
Okay. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. That's a venue provision. And which number is that?
10.
Because I've seen this in two different versions, and one of them had DuPage and one had Kane. So this
Yes.
must have been a red line change that was not accepted through the versions. So this is not this has not been signed by Eric Penny yet. I can go ahead and change that and send that back to you, or we can just cross it off and initial it.
I
Because-
believe that there are other changes that did not take, because there are paragraphs that, as I'm reading this, seem to be repeated.
Okay.
Like item number 8, any claim shall be commenced, is a duplicate of page 44, item C.
Mhm. So the reason for that is that's actually, it looks duplicate. The verbiage is duplicate. Okay, there. Now if you, yes, the verbiage is duplicate, but the reason is paragraph C is applied to our architect. And if you skip to paragraph M8, 8 is a subparagraph of M. And what M says is the architect must put these conditions in the specs with our contractors. So what we're basically saying is, Mr. Architect, here are our terms with you. And one of those terms with you is that you require all of these terms in all of the bid specs with the contractors, so that the contractors are bound to this too. Now,
Gotcha.
It's interesting that you say that, because when I'm looking at this now, I knew I had a red line change that was caught. And the one you're looking at, M8, says Kane. If you look at number E, that one does say DuPage, so that just was not caught by red line. And I can fix that very easily, but I do know that that's that same provision, the venue provision that we're discussing with the Circuit Court of DuPage County, and it was caught in paragraph E, but not paragraph M, whichever one. So M10. So I'll go ahead and get that changed. Anyways, does that explain why it seems duplicative when you say, okay, this stuff keeps repeating itself, and it's really, it's
Yes,
not, even though it's the
totally.
same verbiage, it's applied to a different party.
Gotcha. No problem. I think that's all I had. I'll double check.
Any other comments or discussion on contract?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do we need a motion to say we're correcting?
Mark, do we need to, once the motion has been made, do we have to adjust the motion because we're making these kind of Scrivener error changes, or no?
I think you could say we're going to go ahead and, yeah, exactly. You can do that. We're going to say we're going to go ahead and adopt this contract subject to the Scrivener error interchanges discussed. That's a good way to put it.
Okay, but I think there's still more discussion.
Just a quick question on page 64, and this has to do with section 4.2.1 and item number 7.
Which document are we looking at?
The architect.
V101, the standard form.
The AIA?
Yep. Page 4.
And you have to forgive me, they all have you have your board packet has numbers, and the documents themselves have numbers on them. You say page number 14, whatever it is, they're all kind of numbered differently in a sense. You say 14 could be one. So I'm looking at
AIA, page 14.
okay, provision number
4.2.421, and then number 7 under that.
Yes.
And this is not a legal concern. This is a concern. I wish the architect was on the phone. Very disappointed at going to be attendance a public presentation, meeting, or hearing other than 3 meetings with the library board and 1 community meeting. So one of the reasons that I really voted for this particular architect was them stating how good they are at helping in the community meetings. Then here it seems like they're going to charge us if we want them to be more involved in these community meetings. They're definitely limiting what they will do here to a level that I'm personally feeling is less than what they indicated that they were going to do.
So I'll jump in there and speak to that. And it's something that if we need to, I can always reach out to Eric even right now. But they were actually part of the conversation to come up with 3 open house meetings. And it is our interpretation that they intend to be at all 3 as part of their base services, as well as be at the board presentations to, like they have been, to present design updates as well as all the meetings outlined in the project schedule. I believe what they're intending to do, and I can work with Mark as well as Eric here to come up with the right way to say this, but what they're trying to do is say, if there's going to be an additional meeting scheduled every other week or every week, that's not included. It's right now it's basically a standard board meeting every month, plus the 3 community meetings as part of the design phase. And that's our understanding. I can confirm that with Eric, and if that's not accurate, then maybe we can strike this number 7 or modify it as needed. But I agree with you, Trustee Sullivan. It should not be in there if the interpretation is that they have essentially 1 community meeting.
Right. And we can, that's why we're here, is to discuss the contract, and we can change it as we see fit. And then offline, we go to the architect and we say, the board, if you approve of this modified contract, we said the board has created this contract, modified this line. Do you agree? They agree, and we move forward.
Right. And that might be, yeah. Might be misinterpreted on one of the ends.
So we'll clarify their engagement with the library.
So would they,
Okay.
would they be involved with the meeting like that we would have like in June and then
Everyone.
the other meeting like in July and then the final one in September?
Yes.
Okay.
We want them to hear directly from the public too and engage in that, so yes.
Any other questions, discussion? Jenny?
Jenny?
Sorry, I don't want to be too interruptive, if that's a word. It's not. Anyways, okay, I've got a few questions on the agreement, but I've got one question first for the Mark Rogers, not the Mark plus Roger Ritzman. Mr. Mark Rogers, I think it's for you. So I'm just going to beg for forgiveness. I do feel like I missed something in our overall timeline when we, back in October, selected the concept phase architect. I thought that was a decision, and there would later be some point of evaluation and selection for this design development phase. But by the looks of the contract, the green light is already being given to our concept phase architect. So did I miss something there? I thought there was room for pause, or is everyone already in the conversation so overwhelmingly ready to move forward that I missed that? Can you elaborate on can you help me resolve that confusion, or is that confusion unresolvable?
No, we can talk to it, and that's part of this meeting, is trying to determine if the board is moving forward with them. If the answer is yes, then we wanted to have the contract. It is standard that once you get through a concept and you're considering the big bulk of the project, you get a proposal, and that's including the contracts from the team you're working with. It's your decision whether you want to move forward or not, or modify it, or make certain demands, or whatever else. If you did not want to move forward with an architect for a reason that the board would have to decide, we would think you'd want to go through another selection process of some sort, because you're basically bringing on someone to take on a different type of design. There's some embedded knowledge in this. It is your decision, but that's why we're having this meeting, considering these contracts and considering this project as a separate line item.
Well, thank you. Yes, I'll just take 60 seconds or less to speak my piece on that. And again, apologies where needed for my ignorance, but and for my differing opinion from the otherwise consensus of the group. But I appreciate the work that has been done to date. I've gradually become more comfortable with the overall concept design, but there were definitely areas that from the interview phase I felt would be lacking. And even Trustee Sullivan mentioned in this very meeting that she felt disappointed in what we felt was going to be promised at the interview phase to what has come to pass. I was personally very disappointed at the point that we were kind of led through various meetings to a design that was clearly out of our budget, and that to me was a big smoking gun. And then I'm also, I've had concerns along the way. I've tried to be cooperative and collaborative and all of these things, and try not to be too negative in these conversations. But I have, and on the other hand, I do think it's almost like at this point, they're the front runner, obviously, because they provided the concept design. I don't know how much time and cost we would incur to go through a change. And so there's a burden there to overcome if we were to even consider an alternative. So I'm not, gunning for a change, but I am, I do want to, I do want to get my concerns on the table so that I don't just simply move forward and rubber stamp something that I didn't feel very good about from the start. And if others shared doubts, then we as a group maybe would want to evaluate other options. So that's what I just wanted to speak on. I don't know how anybody else feels.
So I guess what she's saying is if we decided to table them at this point and look at another firm, what would we be out of pocket?
Well, you would have already ended your contract with the concept phase for the designs. That's that. You need to go, really, it's going to be a matter of, the time is one part of it, right? Because you're going to have to get someone up to speed, which is, it can be done, but you're no longer looking at the project schedule you have right now. To be blunt, just to put all the cards on the table, and if you wanted CCS to assist with that process and work through it again, it would be very similar to kind of the last architecture selection process. I don't have it in front of me what that timeline was, or what, maybe condense it by some margin, or what the fee is. But I guess my one question, and that you would need to talk about, is other things that you're not happy with. And I'll suggest, and I hear what Trustee Norton said about some of the information that was presented in interviews, whatever else. I will say, just from my own perception of the interviews and that, and I won't speak to any firm specifically, including Sheehan Nagel Hartring, but I will say that all firms come in when they're looking for the interviews, and they show big flashy pictures. And I actually did go back and looked at that when some questions arose a while ago, and looked at all the other partners, and they had images that were big, flashy, giant scopes of work that were a little bit different, and it would have to tweak. We work with a number of different architects. There isn't one that we work with distinctly. I will say, at least in this instance, it's been my experience that Nagel Hartring has, to Trustee Sullivan's question about meetings, they've come to extra meetings, and we haven't seen a request to the library, as far as I'm aware, for additional funding and things like that. So that's in their benefit, I guess, or something. But to Treasury, or sorry, not Treasury, I can say, but to Trustee Norton's comments, if there is a level of unease, it's good to get that out for discussion now. Talk about what those are, what you might think you want differently, or what you would have expected differently. Even if it doesn't result in a different architect being on board, you want to be able to have an open communication with them, because there needs to be a level of trust between whoever you choose to take this project forward and yourselves. And if it does result in something else, you want to be able to tell whoever else that you're being looked at, this is why, because this reason is why we have to go somewhere else. And, you know, you better meet these types of things. And I think that's something that would need to come out of this conversation if you, as a board, you choose to do that.
And if I could add something here, you know, it's that, and Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of your question was how far does this set us back? I think you're probably, if you're saying I want to select a new architect and go back to that phase of this, I think you're measuring time in months as far as the setback goes, as opposed to days or even weeks. Mark, would you say?
You're right. I think it'd be months, and in terms of dollars too, the one caveat I'll throw in there, and it's just that you have escalation going into things, so you want to just consider that. It's not just say, you know, whatever dollar amount that might be a little bit for consulting fees right now to get through. I don't think that there's, if you look at it, escalation is factored to be roughly 4% in a given year. So if you say, okay, it's going to be 3 years, it's a quarter of that, so that means your escalation for your project cost just went up 2% or 1% or something like that. It's not much. But just I want you all to be aware of some of the things that would pop up there. So in other words, we would take another look at getting someone on board and then having them kind of upload all this information, work through it, because they're not going to just take it and run with it. They're going to want to go through it, which can be done. Trustee Sullivan's, or sorry, Trustee Norton's comments, yes, she's right. It can be done. It's just go into it with an open mind. If that's
It would be like a delay of another 7 months.
I wouldn't think 7 months. I won't say that
6
much.
months, 5 months. I mean,
You're probably looking. You publicize something. You ask for qualifications. You get them in, interview them. You're probably talking 2 months or so to make a determination. Another month or so to get them uploaded. So you're talking 3 to 4 months, I'd say.
That's
It'd be more, I imagine there'll be new drawings
Yes.
to begin with, and that's going to be an added cost as well. I don't know how many, but I think there would be added costs for new drawings, and again,
Yes.
I think it's the cost that I'm more concerned about than the time. But
yeah, I know the budget. The cost is probably what I'd be more concerned with too, because the budget is tight as it is for the scope of work that you're asking for. There is no. I can say with pure honesty, this is a very tight one. There's no fluff. You know, a lot of times when you're setting up project budgets at a concept phase, you want to make sure you have a real good comfort level or fluff, I'll call it, built in there, so that if things change or whatever else, you're allowed, the board's allowed for some wiggle room. There really isn't wiggle room in this, and you're trying to pack in a lot of stuff into this, and so that'd be my more concern. But are we going to have to reduce what you get in terms of the built environment or something? And that's why I want to hear if there are issues, what performance or what other issues are you concerned about, so that we can maybe either address those or side effects valid.
Yeah.
if you feel this way, Jenny, is they showed us a $13 million project, and then we're like, oh, wait, we can only spend 7. Is that kind of where you're coming from?
It was along those lines. It's an aggregation. It's an aggregation of when we were in the interview process. I didn't get a good gut feel from them. I shared that then, and I had a very good gut feel from our number 2 at the time. And I, again, you know, consensus is really important to me, and so I really, you know, I was very torn, and I remain torn about the fact that I seem to be an outlier. But you know, from that initial discomfort, then there was, you know, I tried to trust the process, and then I felt like we were led on a path, and then I felt like what became the 7.7 was kind of like a cobbled together, well, this is what we can fit with your budget kind of a thing, and it turned out to be eerily similar to a concept that was provided by my number 1 choice, which I felt was kind of, you know, just ironic that, you know, here was someone that I felt good about, and that's almost what we are ending up with after many more months of deliberation and a lot more work on the part of staff and CCS or whatever to sort of come up with that. So, you know, I put all that together, and then Trustee Sullivan's concerns, you know, I share those as well. And I've always just kind of, here, I guess I'll say it for the record, I've always just kind of felt like this was going to be a shop that, I mean, they did Fountaindale. Okay, they did other big projects like Fountaindale. Lisle Library is not a Fountaindale. And I, you know, I wanted our architect to be kind of in the right size, right style, right, you know, right scope for us, for Lisle, not Bolingbrook. And I felt like that concern was validated when we got to that 13 point whatever sticker shock day. Yeah, and I wasn't hoping for that or expecting that, but that's what showed, and that validated my fears from the get-go. So I remain concerned that within the existing sketch and what's to come, where are things going to add up again, and where is, you know, where are we going to lose value because this architect doesn't see us, you know, doesn't see, you know, our, you know, Lisle Library District, you know, the core of our values, and you know, try to make our budget go as far as it can safely go. I don't know if I'm articulating that well, but that's where my concerns stem from, and some of them I felt got validated through this. So through this next phase, I mean, I guess when we get to the questions on the contract, I'm happy to see fixed cost, not, you know, so the fixed price on the architect, and it was in line with what CCS had already put in the pro forma. So that's helpful, but I'm worried about what's not in there, that, you know, because there are additional services, as Liz pointed out, and the supplemental and things like that. And I want to make sure that we really do as well as we can to expect what could come up and what the true total architect cost will be.
Yeah, so I'll let the board speak to any questions or discussion on Jenny's conversation or note about hearing you and things of that nature, and I'll let the questions go. I do want to say one thing just to try to clarify on the sticker shock aspect of it, because I know that is a discussion. One thing I will point out is that we did ask the architects to come in with two options, and they did every time they presented what ended up being the $13 million option. They also had the renovation option with it, so it was talked about at both times. And I think what they might have been doing, and where we usually see that from many architects, is they're giving you, okay, if you had your druthers and you got everything you wanted, here's an option, and here's an option to keep things going as we go in. And what can we take from that and put in to the option that you can afford? And you know, one of the things that was found out in this process, and it was a good thing that you go through a concept process, is that, you know, we originally tasked the architect with coming up with, I think, $8.5 to $9 million base cost with some additional, with some adults, and you know, they ended up coming in at something less than that, which is good. So I do think there's maybe some justification, maybe it could have been articulated better or whatever else, like Trustee Norton is suggesting here. I do think there's something to be said for, they got it below, and they always presented one high and one part tracking on the right direction.
And part of that was due to your director trying to get the budget a little bit lower per keeping us a little bit more healthy in terms of our fund balances. So a lot of that was me working with CCS and trying to lower the budget so we could, but also have all the included necessities that we've been.
I'll let the other comments stand alone for discussion. I want to at least put that in there for your discussion.
Well, I appreciate everyone taking the time to let me sort of, you know, get my dirty laundry out. And I didn't just do it to confess it, you know, but I feel through the conversation that it's going to be too big of a, we don't want to switch horses midstream, I don't think, and I'll spare the other cliches, but you know, so to Mark Rogers' point, if we can do what we can at this point heading into the design development phase to take what concerns exist and try to mitigate them in the contract and in our plans. That would be I think the best way forward, both financially, time-wise, and, just generally enjoying the process as much as possible.
Yes, and having the conversations with Nagel and TCS over the month to get to this point with the contracts, I can assure the board that Nagel are committed to doing as much community engagement as we've outlined in the initiative in my report, that they want to do this. They are dedicated in being here to provide community engagement.
And just so you all know too, they did reduce their fees. When we first got the fees, they were about 13% higher than what you're seeing today. We took a look at that and worked with Eric. We didn't come in and say you have to produce it, because you want to make sure you get a drawing package that is going to be competitively bid and put out in the market, that is going to have the holes covered. But we did say, you know what, this project cannot afford that type of number. And so Eric came in, he worked through things, he tried to figure out how he could get the sub-consultants, because they carry, you can see it in the contract, they carry a lot of sub-consultants. It's not just them that you're contracting, it's all their sub-consultants for things like landscape or civil engineering or all that. And they're really working to maximize their efficiencies working with their subcontractors, which is if they came in and said, no, this is our number, that's it, I would be concerned, let's put it that way, about their commitment. But where they dropped it by as much as they did, and they're saying they're going to get this done without changing terms, and they still come in the scope, that's where I do think that they are at least committed and do value your project.
All right, so can we get to the numbers then, Mark? I mean, it's in this part of the conversation, right? Okay, so I am on AIA page, I don't even know where, 21, which is 71 in our packet, the compensation section. So that 477 is a fixed fee, right? Stipulated sum, AKA fixed fee. Okay, so I appreciate that. And that is, in line with the pro forma, that you had before. So it's basically off of the base project costs 8-point-something%. Is that right?
That sounds right. 8 and change.
Yeah, in your pro forma. I'm sorry, I can't find it. It's but I don't know why I can't find it. It's only a few pages of stuff. But anyways, yeah, 8.75%. Round. But the following page, the supplemental services, can you help me? I'm sorry if you don't have the pro forma in front of you, but I just sort of want to know what's in and what's out. So, what's out of scope and is someone else covering the remainder? If there was specialized consultants section, so underneath the primary, which was architects and owners rep, it was specialized consultants. And the first line of the pro forma was specialized architects, sub-consultants, 2.5% of construction costs, landscaping, civil, technology, AV, elevator, lighting. That seemed to be in line with what's described here in the contract for supplemental services. I mean, maybe not a one-for-one, it refers to section 4.1.1, and then you go to that chart there, a few pages back, 4.1.1, page 12 of the contract, 62 of the packet, and it says what architect covers. You kind of look through that, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that includes civil engineering, landscape, architectural, interior design. Okay, check, check, check. So can you help me confirm, is that 150 of supplemental services quoted? Does that equate, how many lines of the pro forma does that equate to? The pro forma for that first line, specialized architect sub-consultants, is only 136,515. So.
Well, if you're looking at the pro forma from the proposed project budgets, it's dated 4/16. So I actually put the numbers in there. So there is we're discussing their specialized consultants at 15115 based on this.
Okay. All right. I'm looking at the pro forma that was from March 26th. I missed the later one. Okay.
And what that includes, so you're aware, the whole board is if you go to that document's page 13, and I believe it's your page 63, it includes building information. I'm going to go through just summary level. Building information level.
It's in here.
landscape, interior design, UV, invoice and payroll, related services as well. And it's not going and doing a whole PUD packet as they describe it here. It is getting through the administrative level of the zoning approval if needed. FF&E, so fixtures, furnishings, equipment, signage, lighting design, elevator consulting, parking area lighting. So it's those aspects are there. They traditionally break this up, and it's really a form, or it's a cause of why it's broken up that way. Is the standard AA? Mark Ritzman's gone through this, probably just services, which is kind of your architecture, mechanical, plumbing, and then you have supplemental specialized. An architect will break that up differently. It's just the buckets that they put their specialized versus base in. They outline them.
Okay, I heard all that and I ingested all that, but maybe offline, could you just, show me how 150 is consistent with what's in the pro forma and not more, or especially not more. If it's less, great, kudos, thumbs up. But if it's, that's, I'm trusting that it's not more.
Yeah, no, it's actually based on that, and you can either send it to Director Weinstein, so you can send it offline, or we can pull up the last board meeting packet and just show that. Yep, but that's based off of all of this information. We wanted to put together a pro forma that was as accurate as possible, all these numbers.
Thank you. And related question, same page. There's a 10% markup for anything that is outside. So section 11.4, compensation for supplemental and additional services when not included in the above. So do we have any contemplation of things that would fall into that category and how much exposure that would be?
They actually did list out for us the different consultants that are not included, specifically that will be or might be needed. Looking for the page of that. All right, so that is on page 13 of the document and page 63 of the packet. It's on the top of that. It's 4.1.1.31 services provided by owner if required. And they could also do some of that in their own thing. All of those line items are accounted for within the $7.7 million project separately. So, for instance, land surveyor, it's in your pro forma. Geotechnic assessment, that's in the pro forma. Traffic consultant, we don't have it because right now we're not changing your entrances and entries. Movers is in the FF&E side. And I can go down and down if you want, but essentially that's all been budgeted for outside of the scope of the architect's contract.
So it's bid for elsewhere, and does it include their markup if they're helping us get those consultants?
Well, no, they wouldn't help us. That is if we added it to their contract. In other words, if they were required to provide those services and they have to sub it out to somebody, it's their internal coordination fee essentially. Now they have to deal with the invoices to them and back and forth and coordinate.
Right. So, but long story short, coming back to it, are we anticipating utilizing them for any of that?
No, I would recommend you go outside to other vendors directly for that to save.
Sure. Yeah. I personally would recommend not having our architect, do it on our behalf and mark it up 10%.
Nope.
We can do better. Okay. I'll share the mic with someone else. I have more questions, but those are big ticket items, literally.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, I'll hog the mic some more. All right, now we're down to the small stuff. Force majeure paragraph. I think this is the rider, page 39 in the packet that we have here. It's item 6 of the rider. I think this might just be a typo, so I'm handing this one over to you. Other Mark, sorry, second Mark. I don't know which
Young Mark.
Lawyer Mark.
And we'll go with young Ritzman because I don't know if Mark's younger than me or I'm younger than him. I'm not going to start.
It looks like we have a person that I'm not familiar with in the second to last sentence called Architect 6.
Let me, just so I'm clear where we are, we're on the,
Yes.
because there's
there's-
actually two riders here. So we
Oh,
have
okay. All right. Yeah.
owner's rider, we have architect's rider. So are we looking at owner's rider or architect's rider?
Architect's rider, please.
Thank you.
6, force majeure. I got to say force majeure a few more times. Thanks. It's good. One of my
That's fine. Okay, the question is, architect, that's a typo. This is Eric's rider. That's a typo.
No
Architect 6.
problem.
Must be S probably instead of 6 is my guess.
All right. And then, sorry, I'm gonna whiplash us back to the previous page. I think I should have. I asked that question already. No, those were my questions. Yeah, I rest. Sorry, I watched Legally Blonde today. I rest my case.
Do we want to, Mark, shall we withdraw the original motion and then move to make the motion with the adjustment, the scrivener adjustment?
Which Mark is that question to?
The lawyer, Mark.
And the question is, should we withdraw the motion and wait till we have updated contracts for the typos? Was the question?
The question is, should we withdraw the original motion and then move to accept the contract as amended with the scrivener's adjustment?
I think that's the way to do it. I would say move to adopt the contracts with the scrivener's adjustments.
Okay. But do we have to, does the person have to withdraw their original? Or no, they don't have to do that?
Withdraw the original motion?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think at this point it's clear for the minutes what we're doing.
Okay, great. So I think.
Karen, you feeling good about it?
Karen.
I was like, yeah, did I do?
Yeah. Okay, Karen.
So what am I'm making a motion to approve this, the contract with the Sheehan, Nagel and Hartrade for the LLD capital improvement project with
Scrivener's
adjustments.
And second.
Treasurer Norton, I'll second. I put everyone through this one.
Thanks, Debbie.
Roll call? Sorry.
Discussion.
Another question or motion?
Do we have any discussion?
I'm sorry.
Do we have any discussion?
I need more discussion.
Second.
No, but then we had the motion, then the second,
Yeah.
and then do we have more discussion? And then we roll.
I don't think there's more
I
discussion.
don't
think
think
so
that's
either.
why I
Yeah.
looked at everyone. I didn't see any.
No.
Sorry. Roll call, please.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Swissack,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Item 11C is the contract for PMA Financial Services. We have a motion to approve this contract and a second, and we'll open the floor for discussion.
I move to approve the contract for financial advisory services by PMA for the LLD capital improvement project.
12 minutes, the library will be closed and the computer shut down.
I'll second.
Check out all materials before leaving.
Any discussion?
I would say that the contract is the same contract we received when we first onboarded PMA, and there was no rider necessary for this particular contract. It's pretty standard.
Well, I have a question. We agreed to, what amount for the contract? I believe the original amount was 15,000.
No,
10,000.
10,000.
10,000,
Yes.
okay, because that's on page 8. So I wanted to clarify, the
Yes.
proposed MA fee
Yes.
is 10,000.
10,000.
I also have a question on their page 11, page 112. The date that Andrew Kim signed. It's posted February 19th, but that's,
We can have them updated. We got this when the library board awarded the services, but if you recall, there was $0 commitment for what they provided to date. So in lieu of the contract at that point in time, it made more prudent sense to wait till you approve the project, which would then necessitate a bond issuance. They go forward.
fine. We may leave it, I just had a question.
Yep. Yeah, we didn't report, there's no dollar at that point.
Any other questions? No hands? Roll call.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Emily Swissack,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Item 11D.
Thank you, Mark and Roger.
Oh, sorry.
Good evening.
Have a good evening.
Kudos to your, so the board here, so kudos to your team for working, with the legal team for working with all the consultants to pull us together. So thank you.
Okay, this is our pleasure too, and it's gonna be a lot easier now with only one Mark in the room. So have a good evening, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, you know, before I leave, real quick, I'll go ahead. Do you want me to just? Are we gonna go with the hand scratched out changes, or do you want me to update like with the architect, for example? I can update the 2 scrivener's errors and then send those to you, Tatiana, and we'll do that. With the one with Mark Rogers, we'll go ahead and just use the one that's hand scratched off since it's already executed on his side by Gavin.
That's
Does that
fine.
sound reasonable? Okay. All right. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Item 11D, the salary scale. May I have a motion and a second to approve the salary scale? We'll open up the floor for discussion and an overview from Director Weinstein.
I move to approve. Oh, sorry.
Who do we have? Karen first?
It's fine. Liz can go.
Okay, I move to approve the LLD salary scale in accordance with CPI, comparative data, and with the Illinois minimum wage target.
I will second.
Thank you.
Okay, so the library uses CPI and comparative rates of pay within our professional field to adjust the annual salary scale. We've also been on a 5-year plan to adjust the salary scale to align with the Illinois minimum wage increase slated for 2025. And this adjustment keeps us on track with that change. As you know, the consumer price index is an economic indicator. It's the most widely read institution, and it provides governments and businesses information about price changes in our nation's economy. So the latest CPI is 2.6% for the Chicago and Naperville area. And staff has created this salary scale at 2%. We think this reflects the starting rate of pay that relates to comparative data that was included in the packet. We also included the Bureau of Labor Statistics documentation that's also in the packet. So we think 2% is a reasonable percentage adjustment.
The library is now closed. Staff, be sure to turn off your radio. Good night.
Any questions for Director Weinstein? Seeing none.
I just had one comment. I appreciate all the backup data, and that's why I don't have any questions, because she provided so much info.
I've done it.
And I second that, but I'd also like to just ask quickly, so we know that part of the proposal was to ensure that we are on track for getting to the minimum wage requirement of 2025. Could you elaborate just a little, Director Weinstein?
Yes, so the minimum wage for the lowest level pay rate here would be $15 an hour. And so to make sure that our separate the job positions move with that increase, we have to adjust the rates of pay for the other job descriptions that come above the lowest level job description.
Thank you.
And again, also aligning with other libraries and what they pay their new hires, their starting rate.
Any other questions? See no hands, no call.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Emily Swistak,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Agenda item 11E, working budget. May I have a motion and a second to approve the library's working budget for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. We'll open up the floor for discussion and an overview from the director.
Treasurer Norton, I move to approve the fiscal year 2021-22 LLD working budget.
I'll second.
Okay, so draft 21-22 working budget covers all expense and revenue categories. The administrative staff have contributed to the spreadsheet for your full budget, as well as the library's outsourced financial advisor Sigich and other outsourced professionals such as ours. Staff are also connected with our insurance carriers and other vendors for the projected costs you see. I won't go through each expense category in detail as we are running a little late, but all that information is in the packet. I can take some questions if there are any, but I can summarize that this working budget comes in a tiny bit lower than last year's budget by 0.5%. And that, of course, it is when you don't include the special reserve project costs for the renovation. I do want to say that, as you all know, working budgets are just that, they are working. And because we are in a transition period moving into a renovations project, the administration expects to see even more savings in some categories due to efficiencies with the renovation for the subsequent fiscal year 22-23. And those categories being building maintenance costs or repairs or things of that nature. So in some, it's pretty much a flat budget from last year to this year.
Congratulations on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Liz.
Okay, congratulations on achieving a virtually flat budget, Tatiana. I don't have specific questions because you cannot believe how many of these categories I had forgotten the definitions of. And by providing all this information, I think you've saved me from having to ask you a lot of questions. So thank you.
Any other?
I want to echo what Liz just said about the document that went in front of it, in front of the spreadsheet, really helped me as well in explaining what everything was, just said, as a refresher about what each category is. So thank you again for that.
Anyone else?
I did have a few questions. I did send them really, really close to the meeting time, but I thought I might as well just, I hope there's no question too dumb, especially the first one. If in the next year we're assuming debt issuance, then it is somewhere in this budget the related debt service costs for the period of time that there is debt outstanding in this fiscal period.
Yeah.
So we did connect with PMA because Director Weinstein asked that same question if it needed to be put into this next year's fiscal budget. PMAs came back and confirmed in writing that you basically make 2 payments on debt issuance for a debt certificate each year. You can, when you're going through the debt issuance process, you can say which months you want that to start in. So PMA recommended, since you're going to be going through this renovation over 2 fiscal years, that you make the first payment in July of 2022, which would be the following fiscal year. So that would not be reflected in my understanding, it would not be reflected in this budget, it would be in the next budget.
Okay, and that does correspond to the monthly cash flow analysis. I see that first repayment amount showing up in July 2022. So it wasn't a trick question. I just wanted to make sure I understood whether it was reflected here or not, because I wasn't finding it in the operating budget. Thank you. Okay, I guess I get to hog the microphone again. All right, next question is, so, and this one's probably, all right, so we get to, it's the big ticket item in the special reserve section, page 58 of the packet, at 5.8. And again, that agrees to what is 5.85 million, excuse me, that project expense line. And that is consistent with what I see in the monthly cash flow projection, which is great. And that 5.85 is part of across the 3 fiscal years that have cash outflows, a total of 7.7. So that reconciles, that makes sense to me. But can you explain how you came up with 5.85 in this fiscal year versus the portion in the next, just high level?
That came from us. So you guys are all aware, the one thing I know for the cash flow is that the monthly, month by month, you're never going to hit one of those dollars. We don't know exactly how much, I'm just making up a number, is going to be for plumbing versus electrical, right? We have a ballpark. So
You mean to the penny?
To the penny, yeah. So we know the project budget is 7.7 million. So when I went and projected the project costs, I actually, to be conservative, tried front loading them, suggesting that you might be paying more sooner. So it falls more conservatively within your budgets. So
okay. I'll cut you off, Mark. That answer is great. If you want to keep telling me more, that's great. But that's you're going to win the pageant with that answer right there. Thank you. Front load the costs. If anything, be conservative. That just music to my ears. So next question is, sorry, there's only 4, so we're halfway there. Insurance costs. This one, you might want to chime in on this too, Mark, but do we need to anticipate any increase in premiums for any possible additional coverage required during construction phase?
So I have that built into the 7.7 project budget. I can't speak to what policies you initially have under your fiscal, let Director Weinstein do that, but builder's risk insurance would be the one I know of, and that would be part of the project budget.
Yeah, so the insurance costs that are in this working budget is outside of the project insurance.
Excellent. All right, on to the 4th. And this one's for you, Director Weinstein. Contract services, by the way, I loved the narrative that preceded it. That was very helpful. In that narrative, under the contract services section, it mentioned IT enhancements. Could you elaborate on the primary IT enhancements are driving the budget increases?
So we are going to be recabling all of our server room, our switches. We will be enhancing our Wi-Fi access points throughout the building. We anticipate some screens to some of the study rooms, and then as far as part of IT, it's electrical as well as IT. It's to accommodate our IT users in the building and providing more electrical access for those people who use laptops throughout the building and things like that.
Thank you. I'm good.
Okay.
Any other? I don't see any hands. Roll call.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Swissack.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartolo.
Aye. Agenda item number 12, opportunity for trustee comments. Trustee Larson, would you like to start?
No, that's fine. I just thank everybody for all your input, and I know, like last week, trying to get all the information for the packets and for the meeting and everything, it's just been kind of overwhelming, I'm sure. Just looking forward to the meetings and seeing how everything keeps going.
Exciting times. But,
Yeah.
jump in there.
And life is slowly getting back to normal.
Okay, trustee Norton?
In addition to the usual thanks, special thanks going out to the board members here for allowing me to get all of my thoughts out on the table and helping me to get more comfortable with these recent meetings. And congratulations to our new officers, in particular, President Bartelli. I am very excited about your leadership and looking forward to, yeah, I am. No, I know, you can send me the check. Yeah, I'm really glad that we have this group, and also, you know, of course, to Vice President Swistak and to a new officer, Secretary Larson. It's very exciting to see these opportunities for our group to expand and grow and share and collaborate in the next fiscal year. And yep, that's all I'm going to say about that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Sullivan?
My hero for this meeting is Tatiana. I think we got through a tremendous amount of work. And I think the preparation that you gave us allowed us to do that. So great package, great work. Probably sent out more emails to us this last week than many months. And we, you know, we got through a lot of heavy duty business. So, you know, maybe our new president did a decent job too, but I think you did a great job, Tatiana. So thank you.
You. Vice President Swistak.
Thank you. I just wanted to say how pleased I am with how the meeting went tonight, and I'm looking forward to continual discussions and collaboration as we move forward. I really appreciate that Treasurer Norton felt comfortable to share how she's been feeling, and I think that will help us as we continue on with this process and to make sure that we all have our voices heard as we're moving forward. So I appreciate that. So thank you, Treasurer Norton, for sharing that. Trustee Sullivan, thank you also for all of the things that you caught tonight and things that you have shared. I also was concerned about that one where just at one community meeting, and that made me concerned as well. I appreciate that Mark had said, no, that's not our understanding of it. So hopefully we'll get that assurance in the upcoming days that they will be here for that. And I really appreciate that. This is my first meeting back in the building since I wasn't even here in February 2020 because I was at a band concert no, I wasn't at a band concert, I was at a work thing. So it's here February of 2020, but I wasn't here in March 2020. So this is my first meeting back here. It's interesting to be here on the screen for those of you that at home. But anyway, so I'm glad to be back in here for that. And I'll echo what Trustee Sullivan said as well about the director and all of the work that was put into the packet and everything these last several days preparing for that. So I really appreciate that. And President Bartelli, nice job running your first meeting.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I will go now. I'd like to say congrats to all the new officers. I will ask you all to bear with me in my new role as president. a little bit learning on the job, but your support, I'm sure I'll, and I'm sure if I don't. In any event, I'd like to thank Director Weinstein and Assistant Director McQuillan for all of your efforts in pulling together all of the due diligence reports that you provided. I'll reference the SIGID email, the Ellers sign off on the project cash flow analysis. And I would like to say I am glad that we have that addressed, the cash flow analysis. I hope Trustee Sullivan, this is one thing you might be able to check off your list. And I realize there's more work to be done, but we finally got there and I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. The last item on the agenda is to adjourn. May I have a motion and a second?
I move to adjourn.
Second. You did.
All right.
Yeah.
Roll call. Sorry.
No discussion.
Ms. Busse,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Karen Larson. Aye. Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. We are adjourned at 9:17 PM.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.